What a pleasure, pleasure and privilege it is to be with y'all tonight. Is it be okay if I stand up here? Okay. So I actually really appreciate you talking about some historical impact. I get asked periodically to do interviews, and I did even back when I was Travis County chair, because the local TV stations couldn't get over a Republican in Travis County, so it was fun to talk to them sometimes. And it shocks me how little people do appreciate about politics. So I would get asked sometimes, you know, aren't politics just more brutal now and more vicious and more personal and more hateful than ever? And I would go, well, y'all do remember the story of Aaron Burr, right? I mean, they shot each other, right? I mean, that's a pretty big one. Or even if you're just involved in the Republican Party, you know, it was only 150 years ago when on the floor of the Senate, a Democrat senator beat with a cane a Republican senator who voted in slavery. There you go. Right? You want to talk vicious, right? I mean, that's pretty vicious. And so a little respect for history really helps. And one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln comes from his second inaugural speech, right? With malice towards none, with charity for all. With our focus on what God gives us to see as what is right. And so it's a challenge, because in this business, right, you can't take the politics out of politics. There are fights, and there are absolutely times when you must fight. You must stand up. I can only imagine what we've been asking for. I mean, during the Kavanaugh hearings, I will tell you my impression was that we are still paying for caving in on the Bork hearings. Sure. 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And you know, the people on the left right now, again, with no respect, no appreciation for history, have said, well, y'all have made the Supreme Court political, right? Because Kavanaugh was there was a swearing-in ceremony at the White House, right? There was celebration at the White House, a reception for Kavanaugh after he was sworn in. So, leaving aside the fact that 9 justices have had such a reception at the White House, and pretty much evenly split, Republican and Democrat, over the last 25 years. Leaving that alone, the Democrats made the Supreme Court political 40 plus years ago. And they started making it political from the bench. And when they couldn't win the political arguments through the political channels, when they couldn't win them from the legislature, when they couldn't win them from the voters, they made the bench political. That's exactly why the big debate is, do we want judiciary who will legislate from the bench or not?
That's what they want.
And of course we do not, but that's exactly what they fight for, and that's what they oppose, someone who will not only someone who won't legislate their way, but someone who won't legislate. And so, with that appreciation for that history, about a month ago, take a little step a little farther back. Last June, when I was first elected to this position, my biggest fear was that in this midterm, we on the Republican side would be a little too complacent. Because that's natural, right? We won, the hard work is done. We beat Hillary, which was a not insignificant thing, right? That was amazing. And as a result of electing not just a Republican president, but also a Republican House and a Republican Senate, we got things done like dozens of just amazing judicial appointments at the federal bench and at the federal appeals court level and at the Supreme Court level. But we also got the biggest tax cut in over 30 years. And so look at that. There's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to be happy about. But it is, for some reason, an element of human nature that we are not quite as motivated by contentment and satisfaction as we are by anger, frustration, and disappointment. And so my big fear was the Democrats were going to be fired up and mad. The inverse of the Tea Party effect, you know, from 2010. That it's first midterm of a president. There is a reason that historically, first midterm of a president, that party loses the House. That's a pretty normal thing. Fortunately, in the last, you know, almost 2 years, we've seen a lot of stuff that is not normal. We have deviated from historical norms, and this is another area where I sincerely hope that this time we will deviate from historical norms. But I was very concerned. We'd be satisfied, we'd be content, we wouldn't be fired up. And so, while they are, so their turnout would increase, ours would not. Now fortunately, in the Texas primary, and in the Texas primary, if you guys live like I do in a major metropolitan area, the newspaper headlines every single day of early vote was, oh my gosh, Democrat turnout through the roof. Now what they didn't tell you is when the election was over, Republican turnout in Texas set a primary record. We had over 1.5 million voters turn out for our primary. You know, in a primary where there wasn't a giant high visibility top of the ticket kind of race. You know, it wasn't Al, Senator Cruz and the Lieutenant Governor, right? There was nothing that visible, and yet, record side on our side. Now on their side, they turned out 1 million, which was a much better number for them than they had in a while. It was not actually nearly as high as 2003. It wasn't anywhere near as high as a record of 1978. Which again is a reminder of history. In Texas, you know, I talk to people around the state, around the country, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're Republican Party chair of Texas. How lucky are you? That was awesome. Y'all are red. Everybody's been red. It was red." And I'm like, yes, I am incredibly fortunate, amazingly blessed, and I know that and I appreciate that. But it was 15 years ago when the Republican Party finally gained control of every branch in Texas. The 2003 legislative session was the first time we got the Texas House. And nobody remembers that. Because we so quickly adjust to the new normal, right? We just assume, oh yeah, it must have always been that way. No, not always. Like, I got kids older than 15, right? This was not that long ago. Now what I love pointing out though, 15 years ago, Republicans in Texas Republicans, got control of all the pieces of Texas government. For 14 years straight, Texas has been named the best economy for business in the entire country. It's not a coincidence. It is absolutely a result of Texas Republicans implementing policies that are best for all and that do produce. You know, Texas is the #1 state for black-owned business creation. I mean, our policies are best for all. And I love reminding people about that. But this election, I was worried. We were going to be content. And so about a month ago, so first of all, I found myself a couple months ago being a whole lot more thankful to Justice Kennedy than I usually was. Because he resigned and that gave the president a chance to name a new Supreme Court justice, which I thought was going to be fantastic. And I had a great conversation with Senator Cornyn, and I told him that, boy, what I was really hoping for was that the Democrats would unleash full crazy during the hearings and remind everybody on our side what we needed to be worried about. And I gotta tell you, I was not picturing actually what they actually did as full crazy. I was picturing something about half that crazy and thinking that was full crazy. crazy. They grossly overshot what I was thinking they would do. But in terms of firing up independent voters and conservative voters, thank you. To remind people what really is at stake. I mean, if you think this hearing was crazy when the Republican Party had the chairmanship and could decide who was subpoenaed and who wasn't subpoenaed and how much time everybody got and all of the like, if you think that was bad, just picture a House where the Democrats are in charge of every committee and they get to do that. And picture that for the next 2 years running up to the 2020 election. That's what we face if the Democrats win 24 seats. If they flip 24 seats, that's what we face. And so that was my big fear. I am cautiously optimistic. We've been seeing a lot of results that indicate that fear may not be nearly as founded as it would have been a couple months ago. And I'm very grateful for that, to the extent that's true. I will tell you that in Texas, we've been worried and we've been working because we have reason to be concerned and because we take nothing for granted. We've been working very hard in 3 different congressional districts for over a year. And actually, we've had people in a couple of other districts as well. But those districts, Will Hurd's district in 23, it goes from Bexar County all the way to El Paso. That happens to overlap very seriously with Senate District 19. Did you guys hear about Senate District 19?
Yeah.
That was an amazing victory. And it was an amazing victory not just because it was the first time Republicans had won it since Reconstruction, so in 139 years. It was an amazing victory because it's a 70% Hispanic district. So this frankly offensive lie that has been told for years that, well, if just enough other people will vote in Texas, then Republicans are dead meat. I love proving that wrong. And this was a district that Hillary Clinton had won by 12 points just 2 years ago. And that victory gives us a supermajority of 2/3, 21 of the 31 senators in the Texas Senate for the first time ever. So there are things to be happy about, and the thing that makes me most happy about that, not just the victory, not just our first Hispanic Texas Republican senator, not just all those other things, but the fact that the way we got the victory was by working together seamlessly. We at the party, we sued his opponent because there's a law in Texas that you're supposed to live in the district that you run in. You know, we're sticklers about the whole law thing. And so we dealt with that. We had a staffer in Bexar County who recruited volunteers and trained them and got them out door knocking. Our data person spent days there making sure that the entire campaign had everything they needed. The governor sent dozens of staffers down to help there, especially in those last couple of weeks. The lieutenant governor paid for radio ads. We all chipped in. Groups that normally don't even talk nice to each other all donated and made sure that, Peter Flores had the resources he needed. And we had a good candidate who worked his rear off and covered those 17 counties and made sure that the voters there knew him and knew that he wanted to earn their support. That was all fantastic. There's a lot of overlap between that district and Will Hurd's district, and I heard that today that district was changed from a toss-up to leans Republican.
Which district? I'm so sorry.
19.
No, that's 23. The Congressional District 23, Will Hurd's district, overlaps a lot with Senate District 19. And so that's 23. We have Pete Sessions' district's 32 up here in Dallas. That's another district where Hillary Clinton won it in 2016, and we have been out working for over a year, identifying voters. And when we in the party, what's great about the party, we can have a longer term perspective. We have a lot of great elected Republicans in Texas, but the party's been around for 150 years. And Rick Perry, longest serving Texas governor, 13 years. We've got a legislator who's been in the legislature for close to 40 years. Right? That's an impressive length of service. But the party's been around for 150 years. And the party is able to help every candidate, which is why right now we've equipped our candidates. We have over 1,000 candidates using our data that's available for free. And all of this door knocking, all of the other things that we've been doing, all of that for years is all in that data and available to those candidates. And that's what we did in the Pete Flores campaign, and that's what we're doing all over the state. And we're doing a lot of other things too. Because not only do we have those 3 districts, and sorry, the last one was 7, Culberson down in Harris County. That's another one where we've got some risk. All of those we've been working. If we lose 3 congressional seats, we've sure helped the Democrats a long way towards 24 they need in the country. And so we are working very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. And then there are a couple of Senate seats, and one of them's right here, right? That are at risk and that we cannot take for granted. And fortunately, we've got good candidates working very hard to make sure they earn the support of their district. We've been helping every way we can, and I know others are jumping in and helping as well. We've got some House districts. We have 95 of the 150 House districts. In those 95, about 6 months ago, the prediction was that worst case, we might lose 10 of those, which would be pretty bad. And that in a probability basis, probably more like 4 or 5. I am cautiously optimistic that with all the work we've been doing and with a couple of lucky breaks like the Kavanaugh thing, that we will positively beat those numbers. On the other hand, being a weatherman and a stock picker is about the only job where you can be wrong about 90% of the time and still be okay. And I am neither of those. And you are all going to know how this all comes out in, 2 weeks from yesterday, early voting starts. Less than a month from now, we're all going to know how this comes out. And I only have one answer for you on how for sure is this going to come out. That depends on you. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to everybody you can. They have got to get out, they've got to get out, they've got to vote, and they've got to vote Republican all the way down the ballot. We have, we already talked about the judiciary. That sentiment, that mentality, that does not just apply at the federal level. And it certainly does not apply just at the Supreme Court level. We need it all the way down the ballot. Your district judges need to respect the rule of law. Your appeals court justices need to respect that it's the elected officials who make the law, not them. So I ask you, do your part. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. We're doing our part. We've been raising money, we've been spending it the right ways. We've been helping, we've been working together. And we've been doing it as a team. And so to that end, I ask you guys, join in on the team, and we are going to keep winning, because I am not tired of winning.